We have sent out minutes of the May 8th meeting. Everybody, I'm sure, has had a chance to read them. They've been out for a while. Do we have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Good, we have official minutes. What has the chairman done? Let's see. Judy Crow asked for a certificate of appreciation or recognition for Robbie Jester.
And I didn't get that all done yet.
Okay, but
But
you're on your way
we're working on it, yeah.
and going before the commissioners when everybody's scheduled.
Yeah, but I have to get it written first. I've got pieces of it done, but his wife has to fill in the rest of it for me.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Tell us who Robbie Jester is.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story. So Robbie Jester, his parents owned Harbor House, and Robbie got his start there cooking. And
It's in Militota.
is that
No.
No,
No, it's
it's
Warden
on
Creek.
Wharton Creek.
Oh, Wharton Creek.
Okay.
Same
So-
neighborhood, different.
He grew up, went to Kent County High School. They lived in Galena. His father did a small amount of time where he managed the Kitty Night House. And then Robbie went to culinary school, came back, helped his dad in the restaurant for a while. And then he went off into the area of Wilmington and Delaware and was working as an executive chef in various restaurants. And he signed up to participate with Bobby Flay, and he won and beat Bobby Flay. He signed up for Guy's Groceries, and he won Guy's Groceries. He decided he would like to try, Netflix was doing a new series called Pressure Cooker. He signed up for that. He won Pressure Cooker. He spent time out in California filming that one within the past couple years. And right now, you can find him on Chopped. And he keeps coming back to the county to do things. He did an event for the United Way. He's been coming out to our farm, doing farm-to-table dinners for 15 years. We figured there's been about 50 or 60 dinners and lunches and brunches and cooking classes that he's done for us. And recently, someone said to me, "What's wrong with Robbie Jester? Why would he go be the executive chef at the Kitty Night House?" And I said, because he's bringing back to the community that he cares a lot about. And that's what made me think, maybe we don't do enough for people who go off and do their big thing and are willing to come back and give to the community. So that's when I, got this idea, well, let's do, what do you call it?
A certificate of recognition.
Certificate of recognition or appreciation for the fact now he has taken on the Kitty Night House as the executive chef there. He has another restaurant in Wilmington, and so he's splitting his time between the places, and he's coming out and he's doing a Father's Day lunch for us. And he, it's just wonderful that he gives back to the community.
So, under the category "Local Boy Makes Good," why not recognize that? And so I think the commissioners will get him in here when all the moving parts come together and give him his due recognition.
Yeah.
So-
Because his crab cakes won, and he's featuring oysters, and he does everything Eastern Shore.
Well, thanks for starting that, Judy.
Yeah.
So that's my report. Nancy?
Just to elaborate on that, do you have a press release or a write-up that, because I'd like to share that with my Department of Commerce.
Okay.
I think it would likely fall more on the tourism side than my side, but maybe we could get a certificate of recognition from the Secretary of Commerce and present it at Kitty Night to give them some exposure as well.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Okay.
But I don't have anything in writing yet. I just have my etched in.
You email me what you just said.
I'll try my best, yeah.
You can look it on YouTube and just.
Yeah, or you could go on Robbie Jester's website, and he kind of outlines everything, but, to get it chronologically, his mother, his wife is organizing the information for me so we can then get it in.
Once we have that,
Yeah.
that shouldn't take too long, should it, Judy? Maybe a couple
Well, I'm
weeks
going
or
to see,
so?
I hope I'm going to see her again on Sunday, and I text her this week and said, we
We can
need to
share
get on
that as well
Yeah.
once we get there.
Yeah.
And,
I'll
Yeah,
work with you, Jamie.
kind of build on that.
Yeah.
Pull that together.
Yeah.
So, see what you started,
Yeah, well,
which is great.
But your point is well taken, that
Yeah.
yeah, why would he come back and do something in Kent County?
So, well, and
Why not?
others
Yeah, I
could
would've
follow
said,
if
why
they
not?
knew.
Yeah.
What a great example he is.
we
Yeah,
want to reward the behavior
Yeah.
that we want repeated.
And did you see he's
Exactly.
originally from Galena?
yes,
So,
yeah.
so there you
Went to
go.
Kent County High School and spoke at Kent County High School graduation, I think, 5 years ago.
I think this is a good idea, and if it's not going to be a one-off, I think we as a group ought to have some criteria for selecting future recipients of the recognition. I mean, Robbie's got a tremendous resume, and certainly tremendous credentials. But I think it would behoove us, if this is something we want to do going forward, to say these are the basic criteria we have for selecting and awarding this kind of recognition to people. My suggestion.
So that's the Robbie Jester Show. Continuing with the agenda, we've been talking about brainstorming, and you have before you a draft of a business retention and expansion is the term we use, BRE survey. This was an idea that was surfaced by Judy and Charlie Athey, that members of the commission go into the business community and get a sense of the temperature. How do you like doing business here? What's good? How can we help you? What's not good? And so Charlie and Nancy with Commerce and Jamie and her team have met mostly electronically over the last month, and we've come up with a set of questions. We've come up with this form, which is just a Dixon Valve profile, so that when we would go out to a company, we would have this profile and a set of questions for our interrogation of that business. And it's not an interrogation, it's a friendly meeting. Hopefully, we'll get through our list of a dozen or so questions, a dozen, which goes on to the back of this form. And we'll let each of us become an ambassador. And I think Judy Gifford, the idea was to each of us go to 2 companies initially and see what we find out.
I didn't have a set number.
But it was a good idea.
Sure, sounds good.
So-
So how do you get the list? How are we going to do the list? Do we have categories or?
That's a good question, because we talked about doing it a lot of different ways. But I think, so we talked about trying to tie it to Maryland Economic Development Week in October. So today, the June meeting, we'll go over the form, and just briefly, I'll share like the intent of the form. And then what we'd like to do is get feedback from this meeting, bring it back next week with any feedback from today. The form may not look like this, because Katie's trying to think of a way to put it all into HubSpot, so it spits it out. So we're working on that. But the premise is that the business profile, the top of the business profile, we're hoping that would be filled out when we go to visit the business, as well as the business description. And then some of that information down there too, like the code and if it's veteran-owned or minority-owned. And then as you're visiting with the business, you're verifying that information, and then you move on to the conversation. And you'll see how some of these questions, like if you ask the first question, you might get 3 of the other answers in that first question. Depends on what's top of mind for them. So what we're thinking is that we thought about, and we're still going to discuss this a little bit further, in September, sending out the surveys electronically to get them to fill out this stuff. If they can't, we can as staff, based on records that we have and public information. And then that could be verified. So let's say we send it out to 10 businesses and 2 don't respond, then we would complete it based on what we know and public information. So we still have to think about what the business list would look like. But really, the whole month of October, I think we could cover a lot more businesses in October if we say, during the month of October, we're going to be doing these visits throughout the county. And then we could hit some major employers, some medium, and some small ones as well. And then we have a big variety.
But we could do it year-long, we don't have to just, I mean, that would be our big
big
inauguration,
kickoff.
our big kickoff
Yep,
week, yeah.
good point. Yep, but yeah, absolutely.
Let's see how
And-
that goes. We do not at this point have a list of the first set of companies, but again, we want to do different business sectors. We want to go big, small. Dixon is certainly big, but so big you can't ignore them. But with the help of our vice chair, we've developed this sheet, information sheet, and we hope to have that on all of the companies. So when you go out, you've got a good understanding of who the business is, who you're calling on. And as Jamie said, the questions may tend to answer themselves. If you say, how's business, as your first question, you may be sitting there keeping score.
Right, and they might start talking about how hard it is to find employees, or, whatever's most top of mind for them at that time. And maybe during the July meeting, because we'll talk about it today, and any updates or changes that we want done on the form by then we'll have another form to bring back before we actually start rolling it out. Maybe after the July meeting, we could even do practices, like I could interview Judy, Paula could interview Judy, then, you know what I mean? So that we're doing some of those businesses as well, and that gives us a feel for how to do the interviews.
Yeah. One question that I've thought of asking is, can you think of anyone we could ask to come to the county, or you might recommend to come to the county? Might want to move here? Is that on there? I missed that, if it is.
No, it's not.
Well, we say what types of businesses complement yours, or make good partners?
But I mean, it could be, but intentionally make them think maybe they would want to move here. That's just a thought, I don't.
No, I think that's a good idea. If you can ask people in business if they've identified anybody who could
And
be
it doesn't have to be the same business.
approached
Right.
No. Who do you know out there in
consider
the
coming
universe?
here.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes with what type of businesses complement.
But it doesn't have to compliment, it could be their buddy they golf with who, likes it up here, or,
Right.
thinking of buying a house or something, just to plant the seed.
Sort of like, who might we approach? Do you have anybody to recommend that we approach as a potential
Right.
candidate to move here?
Good. And that's the kind of suggestions we're looking for, not to lengthen the number of questions, because at some point it becomes a chore and they start looking at their phones or wristwatches. So 10 to 12 questions, and we can factor this notion into some other questions. So in the next month, be looking at the questions, be thinking about how they can be refined, and get the information that you think would be valuable to us and our effort.
So we should look at these questions and get back to Jamie with
Yeah,
suggestions
and if
on
anybody has any ideas
language.
now.
I have one idea. It's around that number 7, what type of business complements yours? What comes to my mind is, what partnerships or collaborations do you hold with other businesses within Kent County? And that forces people to think about that. And a concrete example is, in Rock Hall, Jeff does our embroidery and our shirts and everything. Now, I could go to Delaware and get it done, maybe a little cheaper, but I try to keep my business in Kent County. And by intentionally thinking about that, I think that draws you back to, yeah, we probably should be looking at how people in our county can support us.
I think that's a better way to ask the question. What other businesses are you working with right now? As opposed to who compliments you? Because
Well,
that's sort of an open-ended.
But they're kind of two separate questions, because what types of businesses complement yours or make good partners? Kind of thinking about the supply chain there. Like, Judy, I don't know, is there something that you anybody, that you constantly have to go out of county to purchase that you would like to have here? I mean, I'm making up something, a cardboard box factory. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, cardboard boxes.
Then I think the question needs to be clearer, because that's not how I would have interpreted it.
Right, I agree.
So you could just ask them what supply chain.
Who's in your supply chain?
Yeah.
Got it.
But I think it's a great start, really excited to get going on this. And we're going to get to all the towns. It's going to be hard to just get 10, figure out 10 when you've got, you know, such, I mean, we don't have a big county, but you know,
Yep.
we have enough spread to figure it out.
Yeah, we can't get to them all, so we need to be as selective as we can.
But you don't want to be concentrated,
No.
you know, you don't want to leave anybody out altogether, right? So, yeah, it's tricky.
Yep. And who knows, in a perfect world, people will hear that we're doing this and say, come visit me.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That would be nice.
We
So
could put that out there.
don't keep it a secret. Any other thoughts about the questions, the process?
I'm not sure that the what makes your business unique is,
That lets them brag about themselves.
well, is it unique or, I mean, there are lots of retail businesses, there are lots of farm businesses.
I think then that question is appropriate for that, because, I mean, let's, you know, if you compared retail businesses, shops, you know, that carry similar items, whether it be clothing or fashion accessories or whatnot, you know, I would think that they would want to stand out as being kind of known or different for something. So if someone were to ask, you know, various businesses have kind of their niche, like I was just meeting, not with this person, but was talking with this person because I had to go to a Lancaster yesterday for a Brighton city event, they call it, where you order the next season's things. And there was someone there, her shop is in Cape May, and completely different. I mean, you know, so much bigger than, you know, than Rock Hall in comparison, but we were, you know, sharing some ideas and whatnot. And and I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, she said that her thing is, because she asked me what types of things I carried, and I told her, and I said, you know, do you carry apparel also? And she said, yes, but I really try to carry what is unusual, what nobody else has, preferably American-made, you know, and so her niche would be kind of that would make her more unique than somebody else who carries the standards that everybody knows. And typically, you can go to shops in different towns, and they're all carrying, you know, Habitat or Tribal or, you know, whatever. So I think that still can kind of make them stand out. I mean, I can think even in ours, there's so few places now that are offering complimentary gift wrap anymore, you know, because it has gotten so expensive. But, you know, there are a few places that they kind of pride themselves in that they want to offer that free. You know, they don't want to have, you know, have to charge customers for it.
7 days a week.
Yeah, things like, you know, so I think that kind of what makes your business, I mean, you could even say maybe successful rather than unique, but it is, I think it's asking someone what makes them stand out. Why are people, you know, if you've got 3 shops in a row, like maybe not in Rock Hall, but in Chestertown, you know, what does each one, you know, what is unique or what is special about each one?
Well,
So-
I understand that, and we're gathering information, you know, across a series, you know, a group of businesses. But when we ask these questions, what is our purpose? What are we going to do with the information that we get? Is this going to help us? Is this, and I look at all the questions and I go, how is this helping us evaluate our business community? What are we going to do with this? Are we actually going to take this information and use it as a means of promoting individual members of our business community? I mean, because people's time is limited, first of all, and we want to make sure that they're getting value out of this experience. We need to tell them, I think, as we approach them, here's what we intend to do with this. And so I would look at each of the questions and say, how are we going to use this? Does it inform us in reaching out to new businesses? Does it inform us in talking to the commissioners about what, you know, the business community is looking for? Does it help us understand the climate better? Does it help us identify other things we might be doing in terms of advocacy? So that's the way I mean, I agree this survey is a great start. I just hope we can make it as effective and as business-friendly as we can.
And I think, we can articulate why we're doing it and what we are going to do with it. And honestly, the answer to just about every question you answered is yes. That's what we do when we visit with businesses. We listen to what their concerns are and try to determine, is there something we can do on the local level or the state level or the federal level to help them? And, a lot of those conversations then, when I'm meeting with Nancy from the state, I can say, hey, here's what we're really hearing. Big example is Katie has heard over and over that there's no grants really for small businesses that don't fit like a particular purpose. So if somebody needs something for, and we got Maryland Capital Enterprises, but they're based out of Salisbury. So the Upper Shore Regional Council, we're going to do a small business grant loan program and try to figure out how to get money out to the community when they're first starting out. So those are different ways that we can use that information. The other thing I was going to say is I think if we could do some test interviews in July, just because it's all going to be like, you want it to be a natural conversation flow. You don't want it to be, I'm asking this question, I got to write all the details down. Like, if we don't, you might not cover all these in a visit, because somebody might be very focused on what they want to talk to you about. And we have to be open enough to just take the information they're willing to give, try to get as much information as we can.
Yep.
But also, if they've really focused on something, we have to listen to them.
Well, we all have friends who have businesses.
Absolutely.
Why don't we just all try to do a pilot program with a friend that we have
like
that we
it.
feel comfortable with and just say we're beta testing this?
Yeah.
Instead of us, because we don't necessarily have these issues that some real, different kinds of businesses have.
Yeah, to me, this is a
And then we
business
get 7 more
climate
people.
study. So see how people perceive the business climate in Kent County. And from that may surface incentives or loans or whatever they may be interested in. We don't have the information to answer those questions.
Right.
But we can connect them to Jamie and her team and to Nancy and get that information back.
And is it the Eastern Shore, the Business Sentiment Survey, Nancy, through the Eastern Shore GIS Lab? So that's getting ready to come out again in July. So I also, so they're going to be doing that, and then we're going to be doing this. So I don't want the fatigue to set in of surveys about business sentiment or that as well. So that's why, but ours will be more of a natural conversation, not a survey online.
Right. And, these things all look good on paper, but the minute you get started in a conversation, it's going to be, okay, you got that, and one more thing. And we're not going to get all answers to all questions, so it doesn't really matter how many are on there. You just got to use your judgment
And
and go with
we'll
the
get
flow.
information that we're not asking for.
Exactly,
just from
exactly.
that
So this is a
conversation.
great, first attempt.
Well, keep looking at the questions, think about them, think about the process and where we're going. Feed that information back to us, because Jamie and Nancy and Charlie and I will be getting together
Yes.
to continue to refine this process until we push start.
So,
Katie's
one more
on
month.
vacation,
Huh?
Katie's on vacation, so while she's away till the 25th. So send those, if you have anything, especially on this, let me know.
Okay,
So I
and
can
then
put it on
next
there
month we'll
before
get
she
like
gets
a
back.
closer
Yeah.
final draft and try to practice it between
Yes.
July and August, and then be ready to roll September, October.
You got it.
Yeah,
Yep.
sounds good.
Okay, Nancy, you had a comment?
I just want to say that the questions that are on there were chosen specifically and carefully to extract information that we're looking for. If you think of it like a puzzle, in the conversation, you're going to pick up pieces of information that all fit into a puzzle. And some information that you may get during an interview, there's nothing to do with it that day or that week. But you never know. The example that a business is focused on made in the USA. Well, perhaps the state does a promotion of retail businesses, and they've done this in the past, that are promoting businesses in Maryland that are made in the USA or made in Maryland. Then it would be helpful to have that information. So you just never know where it's going to, and that occurs time and time again. So I think it's a very good selection of questions, good variety that will really help us get to know the businesses in Kent County. And more importantly, how to support them, what their needs are, what their challenges are,
and then future programs we can tailor to their needs.
Thank you for your help. Jamie mentioned that Katie is on vacation. This is taking it out of order, but it's not really a vacation. Jamie, would you like to?
She gets
Describe-
married on Saturday, and then, yeah, she's going away for a mini honeymoon for this week, next week, and then she's got a couple more days off, and then she'll be back, so yes. Exciting times for Katie.
Congratulations, Katie.
She's probably not listening.
Not today, I don't believe so. I believe she's knee deep.
But it's recorded.
Yep, and we're on
she's
record. This
knee-deep.
is being recorded. Okay, the next item is the book. Judy, are you ready to lead us through this discussion? We're brainstorming. again.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we're missing two people because, we're so small, but, yeah, so I think I want to hear I see Sandy might have a few notes
No,
on the book.
that was something else.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, I just sort of want to go around and see what everybody's impression is of it before I get started, just to get some unbiased and sort of,
Sure.
yeah.
I'll start.
All right.
Unless you want me to wrap it up at the end, or both.
I think let's let Judy and Paula start first,
Okay.
Well,
if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
want to put you on the spot.
I thought there were a lot of principles and ideas that really didn't feel so very new to me. And I felt that the challenges that we face in our area were woven in throughout some of the readings in the book. I don't have all of my notes with me because I left the book on the kitchen table. But there were many aspects that I thought, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this. But then there were other times I thought, getting people to work together because we're a small community should be easy. And a reality is it's not really easy. So that was pretty much my take on it, yeah.
Sandy, do you have any notes?
Well, I agree, and I was thinking specifically in Rock Hall, I'm not sure how well some of the businesses may work, and I'm thinking, in my role as retailer, but there seems to be more, I don't know if it's fear of competition or begrudging in some cases that we have tried in Rock Hall to, we even had, what they call it, social networking or something like that, and we had this thing, but I don't know that it accomplished what we were hoping. It's still, and I don't know if I should say this or not, but in that community too, there's a sense of us and them.
Yep.
So if you're not from the community, you're kind of set off here, and the locals, many of them, have no desire to work with you. They feel more, I don't know, intimidated or like you're their competition or whatever, instead of a sense of camaraderie of, let's all work together and try to make this a place a destination where people want to come. So some of the things I was, reading, I was like, well, yeah, maybe in another community, but, and I'm not sure how you fix that. I don't, it's been longstanding. I mean, I've been in Rock Hall since 2009, and, there's still definitely that them and us. And I don't know if you experienced that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Nobody from Rock Hall wants to have anything to do with Kennedyville.
And for a good
And,
reason.
I probably would never have said that, but after reading the book, that's a reality of like what I'm faced with, and even Chestertown. Nobody, out of the 550 people I have in my wine club, 3% are from Kent County. That's amazing.
Wow.
Why isn't Kent County more engrossed in a local business that's bringing so much tourism to the area? And I probably wouldn't have said that without the book sort of stimulating my thinking, like, well, yeah, we all should be working together, but I'm not sure. I
There's
knew how to
also-
do it in early childhood. I don't know how to do it
Well, I
here.
know that they were talking,
Sandbox.
Yeah.
they were talking about, finding people within the community that, are, I forget the word they used, or she used, but that it was, you have strong people, in your community that might be able to help. And I think, Chestertown, in some sense, has some benefactors and people who have, really care about keeping it in good shape and viable and everything. But I feel like in Rock Hall, like I said, I've been there, 15 years, and it's like just when you think, oh, we're turning the corner, and then we go back 3 steps, and I don't know that we have identified, I think right now we actually have some people between transportation group and the group that is the local economic development group there in Rock Hall. That's the first time anything like that has really ever come about, so.
They're both still kind of new.
Yes, they're new, and whether or not they'll hang in there, because that's another thing, some people they're really strong and trying to pull people together, and then suddenly they either burn out or whatever, and then they're gone, and you're waiting on someone else to come in, and everyone's kind of looking like, oh yeah, they're all happy and excited and all filled with all these ideas and everything, just wait.
Yeah.
They'll lose their interest too. So, it's kind of like, I don't know, so that can be disheartening, even though, those of us who are saying, okay, we're getting there, we're improving, we're moving forward instead of backwards. So, but
Yeah, so maybe we need to think about how to keep those groups, going, or how to ignite the fire.
well,
what
and
can
just
you
like
do?
with
Yeah.
volunteers too, that,
Right.
I forget what the percentage is, but the number of people, it's kind of the same people that do
Right.
everything for the town. And one friend I have who has taken on it now, she's really taken on some things with grant writing and things like that, but she was so involved in Pirates and Wenches and actually any of the events, Fall Fest and things. And last year, she just kind of, had a meltdown because so much was on her shoulders on the day of the event or days of the event. Anything that went wrong, they were attacking her, and her husband was getting all upset. And so, it was kind of like, whoa, you need to step back, so, but she's still, thankfully, she's, I think, a rare bird, but she is still sticking in there. She's just kind of shifting jobs around a
That's
little
what
bit.
you gotta do,
So,
yeah.
to stay.
Get more help.
Yeah. But that's one of the hardest things
Yeah,
to
it
do, is
is
to get
hard.
volunteers.
Yeah, you gotta work
So.
hard, yeah.
Paula?
I didn't find the book very useful.
I'm sorry, you did?
I didn't find the book very useful. There were a lot of platitudes. There were a lot of standard, talk to people. There were some things that were general, as Judy said, sort of tenets of, how to approach economic development. But the one thing that really put me off at the end of the book was the statement, I won't put it exactly the way they put it in the book, but screw change. And I thought, how can you say that as an economic developer? Because change is going to happen no matter what. And it's a question of, one of the things I thought one of the failings in the book was that it didn't discuss achieving balance in priorities and in objectives and in community outlooks. One of the things I think we suffer from here in Kent County is that we have some very clear factions looking at the big picture in terms of prioritizing, maintaining green space versus developing business, versus looking out for various members of the community, and trying to achieve what I would call balance. And that's not addressed in this book, in my view, in an appropriate way. One of the things I found for me to be helpful in fulfilling this role is participating in some of the economic development conferences and speeches and that sort of thing around the state, because they're really looking at what's going on statewide, and they're bringing people to the table who are addressing particular problems in their communities. And I've learned a great deal about how to mobilize resources, how to break down barriers of communication, and how to bring people together to solve a problem or to achieve a goal by going to the actual conferences. And I would recommend everybody in this group do that. The Maryland Economic Development Association, the Maryland Planning Group, put on fantastic conferences that really provide some insight into the kinds of issues you were raising and Judy's raising, and get you thinking about how we can make things work here. I mean, the book is fine as a beginner primer. But more than that, I don't think it answers. I'm sorry, Judy.
I didn't say I was supposed to answer any questions.
Well, I know you think highly of the book, and
No, I just thought it stimulated, well, look, we wouldn't be having any discussion at all if we hadn't had the book, so it's a tool.
No, I understand, and I agree.
I may ask David to chime in
Oh, I forgot he was
since he's
there.
online, but like Judy Crow said, a lot of fundamental, basic economic development principles she talked about. Like Paula, I wasn't fond of her language, or some spellings and
Oh, yeah, she
grammatical
has some
problems.
terrible grammar and spellings, I agree with
Those-
that.
Those things just annoy me, and the formatting changes from chapter to chapter, from right margin justification to left margin. But, I get distracted and lose the thought, but that's just me. I did find some of her points about leadership in the community, that all communities have fewer and fewer champions of business and industry leading the charge. And to get things accomplished, same goals, like Sandy said, you need more smaller people doing pieces to get the whole put together. And I like that thought as she was going together. We're going through that in planning this year's Better Today celebrations, because the leadership has stepped back and all these components have grown over time, and some lots of smaller people need to step up to get it done. It will happen. We just don't know how we're going to get there right now. But the book itself, Judy, it was a good refresher for me. I've worked in economic development professionally for 32 years. Most of the mistakes she pointed out there, I've made.
Well, that's one
hopefully
of the
learn from.
reasons I thought of this book, because I've talked to people on the board who didn't really know what their job was, what economic development did, and so I thought it was a good way to get us all on kind of a level playing field in an easy way, easy read. It's not a heavy literature report or, article or something like that, so.
David, you've gotten a 2-minute warning. You got any thoughts?
Kind of can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, a blend of, I guess, what Paul has said, and Dick, I think what you were reiterating as well to a certain extent. I found some frustrations and challenges, but I did, it was some thought-provoking. And when you thought about some of the frustrations, I think it comes down to, how we can bring different group and different factions, different mindsets together to have synergy for something that's some semblance of a common cause. So I did find some value, and while that's not really earth-shattering, but it is at the end of the day what we're all kind of tasked with. So that would be my I guess my takeaway, just confirmation more than anything.
Good point. Thanks, David.
Well, I'd like to say that I think, first of all, that this book validates lots of things that we're already doing, and I think that's kind of important to note. The economic gardening, the working with small businesses, how they're so critical, and that's where you're going to get your real growth and your commitment to the community. And then the other part that I thought she mentioned that was interesting is that we need to create jobs that future employees will want to fill, and sort of be forward-thinking instead of what we've always been doing. So I thought those points were really important. And then I worry that we don't consider unintended consequences. And she put that out there, and I think that's going to be one of our shortcomings as we see things coming down the pike. And we need to figure out a way to analyze them and just address them in the first place and just say, you know, what, I mean, you can take, Paul, I know your jab was at me about having concerns about the warehouse, but I don't think that we have done an analysis of the unintended consequences of that, you know? I mean, just for an example, she mentions cannibalizing. Are they going to take jobs that we're already having a hard time, are they workers that, you know, could fill the jobs that we're having a hard time filling in the county? So that's just one example. I don't want to get into a big debate over that, but we need to just not think that everything is going to be a net positive. We have to look at the consequences. So I thought that was an important thing to bring up. And then, of course, collaboration is important, and then have a pragmatic strategy on who's going to do the long-term work. You know, how do things get done? And then the other point was incentives, and I've had questions about that, but I don't understand the incentives, so maybe we can put that on the agenda at some point. But, you know, are the incentives, do you really need them? Are they are they effective? Are they doing what we want them to do? Have we looked at them? Have we analyzed them to see, you know, are they working? So that was an interesting point I thought she made. And then I do think, I know Katie had a problem with the idea of crowdsourcing or getting out in the community, but I think we're missing the boat if we don't at least address that. I mean, we've got a lot of communities who are not represented in any body in the county, you know, they're missing in action, and
Can you explain crowdsourcing, what you mean by that?
well, I don't mean just crowdsourcing or surveying, getting input from the community about what their needs are somehow.
Uh-huh.
And like, I know Queen Anne's County just did a survey. I don't know if I can open it, so I haven't looked at it yet. But they're sending it out, their Economic Development Committee, sending it out to, it's in their newsletter that they're doing some kind of survey. And so maybe we could think about doing that. I know, you know, having meetings is a bad idea, you know, trying to get people in and getting the information out there so everybody's discussing the same facts, which is really difficult. I get that. We don't want to go through that. But maybe there's other ways to reach, you know, other populations. Like, say, how are those Hispanic markets doing? You know, what can we do to help them? Just for an example, do they need any resources? Or just what do the young people want in this county? What would make them want to stay here and make, you know, I mean, just certain things we can come up with that list. And sort of not be so insulated in where we are and who we are, and just try to get out to the broader community, let them know we're concerned, and find out what we can do to make their lives better. Is it childcare? Is it transportation? We've talked about that before. You know, is it, I don't know, they don't have a certificate. You know, I don't know, because I don't know, and that's the point. What can we learn to help the whole community, not just our specific businesses, do better as well? So I thought that was worth some discussion points. So I'm not as critical. I didn't think, you know, I had problems with the typos and all that sort of stuff, but, you know, why quibble over that when there's some other pieces that can be helpful? So
Good stuff in there.
yeah, I mean, you know, it's just an easy read. Somebody gave it to me, and, you know, I didn't go and research the library to find the best book to share, or had the, you know, I mean, sometimes way things are phrased can spark your interest, and you say, well, I disagree with that. Well, that's a good thing, you know, instead of it being a pablum about yada, yada, yada. So, yeah, and I just think that the point that they make about valuing what we have here as important, and don't keep thinking, well, we're just Kent County, you know, we need to give all these incentives or beg people to come. What we have here is, you know, is awesome. And we need to really package that more and come up with a clear, concise message about what makes us unique and why we're valuable and our usability. So, I mean, I think there's take-home messages from this if you want to look for them. Mm-hmm. And also, there's some great references. I'm listening to the podcast now that was in there by, I didn't bring my phone, but it's The Art of Decision Making, and about our biases when it comes to decision, and he has case studies about climbing Mount Everest in 1996 that went awry and why that happened, and it's really interesting. And then there's a podcast on creativity that is listed in there too that's really good. So, you know, if nothing else, some things lead to other things if you're willing to, you know, go down that path. So, and those two, I really highly recommend those podcasts.
Well, we've all got the book, and we should probably refer to it from time to time. But some of the can you share your points with us, Judy?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I can, yeah. I'll
Well,
have
you
to
could-
clean it
you
up
could
a
write
little
a
bit.
book.
I'll clean it up.
All right.
Yeah, no, I took a lot of
No, you don't
notes,
have to
and I
print it
took notes on my notes, and so,
Well,
you know, it's,
Yeah,
this is a working
whatever,
sheet.
but
Yeah, I
you've
can
raised
share
some
that
good
with you.
points.
Sure, okay.
And you've summarized the book nicely.
Okay, I'll do
I
that.
found one of the fundamental tenets of economic development is the best sales message you have comes from a satisfied customer.
Yeah,
And our survey is going to help find some of those satisfied customers, and maybe
Yeah.
they become advocates for what we do. And she
all have to
mentions
be
that
advocates.
kind of message in here.
well, in that school report, I mean, the graduation report from our high school this year, where those kids are going and what they're doing, that should be like headlines. You know, I mean, 100% of them, you know, are just, on a path to something that they, what was it, Shelley? It's 35, what is it, 75% college or 2-year, and then, yeah, then there's the military.
Very impressive.
Very impressive, yeah.
Everybody has a plan.
Exactly, that's the word, a plan.
Change, but
Right.
they have those kids on a course. a
Exactly. Yeah, so we gotta, get that rap out of the way, the rap that we have bad schools has got to die, because that hurts businesses coming here, so, and people wanting to live here, so that one's really important.
Yep. Next on the agenda, thanks, Judy.
Yeah, thank you all.
And everybody for participating. You gave a great deal of thought. Our guest speaker list, part of our brainstorming agenda. Staff sent out a survey. And everybody should have responded. The spreadsheet is here. It doesn't look like mine, but this,
Well, and I do have a question, because if I'm looking at
Don't look like
that,
mine either.
and we meet monthly, and one month we want to do a presentation, and the next month we want to do brainstorming, it would take us 2 years to get through this list. Is that really what we want to do? So that's the question before us, or do we want to have two I mean, it's your commission. So I just need some direction there as how you want us to move
well,
forward.
I think, from my perspective, this prioritizes what we think is most important. We may never get to the bottom of the list. And I can see this is the way it came out. Town of Chestertown, Upper Shore Regional.
Yeah,
Bill Mackey, number 3. If we can do those 3 in a year or half a year, then we will have done well.
So I just want to revisit the brainstorming thing. I think the brainstorming could be tied with the speakers. And somehow we could do it in a meeting or I just don't see what we're going to do brainstorming without a purpose. I just worry we're going to spend and I'm not sure what the brainstorming was going to be or do. So I was just curious how that was going to work. Because I think it's important to hear from a lot of these speakers so we can gain knowledge to know what to discuss.
I misspoke there, Judy, not brainstorming, briefings, staff briefings. That's what the last
Oh,
meeting
but we
was.
had used the term brainstorming in the past.
Brainstorming, I think, kind of like you said, happens naturally at every meeting, depending on what we're talking about.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it was speakers and briefings, there we go. So
Yep.
if we do every other month,
And
again.
so can you refresh me on the briefings then, because that's the first I've heard of that.
No, the staff briefings, we talked about it last time, that you didn't want staff's updates every meeting. You only wanted them every other month.
Oh, I don't recall agreeing to that, okay. Okay, we can try it.
So, I mean, and we're going to talk about that too, because that's another part of this. You know, looking at what we want from staff briefings, if you turn your paper over, they're on there. So those was everything that was mentioned. Probably up to number 5, I'm okay. But you get down into those other things, we could be here for 2 or 3 hours telling you the meetings we attended in the course, 60 days. That's
No.
what I'm saying. You don't want,
We don't
you're not
want
going
that.
to want all that.
No, we don't
But
want that.
That was what was asked during the meetings. So I need clarification as to what does the commission want to hear
Yeah, and
from
what-
staff briefings.
From my perspective, I looked at the question and the answer a different way. I would prefer that we have staff reports at every meeting, but not counting every meeting that Shallon has attended
Right.
in the past month. Because I'll-
No, you don't do
Been
that,
able
but-
to do that.
That's not my interest, but conceptually, what is she working on? What is she trying to do? Does she have a multiple choice on her agenda and needs our help in picking what the top priorities should be for her? Now, since we're only
Yeah.
meeting once a month, she may have to make that decision on her own in the interim. But if there are things that are future activities, you know all of us, we're not that scary.
I think if we can have a set format for our agenda, I would much prefer to have every meeting have somebody talking about what's going on here from this list. And there may be an opportunity to have more than one. If we tell them, you got 15 minutes to tell us what's going on in Rockwall. You got 15 minutes to tell us what's going on in Galena. We could have more than one. It doesn't have to be one per meeting.
Agreed.
And current obstacles and challenges and current opportunities, I think, can be dealt with under new versus old built business. Because that's coming from you guys. And then the staff reports on their activities and what they've accomplished in the last month is just a short briefing.
Right.
And to the extent there are issues you need us to address, then that can be another matter, or under new or old business. I don't think we have to divide it up quite so.
And we do have a speaker at our next meeting identified.
Right. And maybe there's more than one. Maybe we get the towns in here and get two at a time.
I need the commission to put some direction.
What's that now?
I need the direction from the
Yeah,
commission.
on my score sheet, I gave each of the 5 towns the same number, same priority number, based on their abilities to
That's
come
what I did too.
at us. So let's see who can be first. But I wouldn't pick any one town over any other town.
Right. Especially with their availability issues, if they have any, right?
And I think in a lot of cases, like you said, that we could probably double up on
And that
some,
would-
have 2 towns or a town and a board, or whatever.
And the towns can have a synergy. If there's 2 of them together, they might, learn from each other or something,
Yep.
So am I
So-
hearing everybody say they want a speaker at each meeting? At least one?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because that's what we've done in the past.
Yeah, I think it
And-
got confused in the discussion somehow, but
It was clearly said that we shouldn't have a meeting, we shouldn't have a presenter at every meeting.
Well,
Well, I understood it to be some brainstorming at every other meeting. So anyhow, but
Okay.
either way, that's not what I was, yeah.
line them
Okay.
up.
So let's sort of keep the old format with tighter or more focused staff reports and, 1 or 2 speakers as fits into the agenda.
Okay.
But with the list, I'm just concerned about, we've already had 3 Chestertown speakers come. I don't see how that came out number 1. Where is it?
I think it's somebody from the town, like we haven't had,
Mayor Foster.
yeah, Mayor Foster, I think is what town of Chester.
Oh, because we've had the Main Street twice, and we've had Larry DeRay.
And
So-
Nina frequently is attending these meetings, so.
Yeah, I just, but that's fine. I was just surprised to have that, see that at the top of the list, since we've already had them 3 times out of 9.
And Judy,
since I've been
I
here.
think where possible, each town has a manager, but I'd like to hear from the mayors.
Yeah, that's fine. No. I just said I was surprised because we've already heard from Chestertown. But they all have different issues, exactly.
Yep. Yep.
So that, if you say mayor, that is a little more clear to me than just town of Chestertown. That wasn't clear.
That's my thought. Anybody else?
It'd be great if we could get the mayor and the manager to come, because they're dealing with some different
Watch them
things.
disagree. So,
Yeah, I think a representative
Okay.
of the town as opposed to an organization within the town is,
so has this been helpful to you, Jamie?
Yes, and when we move down to the agenda for the July meeting, we can
Okay.
iron out whatever's
can
left at that point.
Flip coins at that.
Yeah,
And-
the short term, I'm
I was just
sorry.
gonna say, just back to the guest speakers, and use your judgment, and don't stick with this list, and don't think you can't go down to number 8 when number 2 doesn't show up or something like that.
Right.
This is just guidance, but if people can't
And
come.
we can only invite them, we can't make them.
No, I
attend or
agree.
present
I
too.
understand.
So
I
There may
understand.
be some that really have no interest. I don't know that.
We
but
have
I'm
no
just-
subpoena power?
But I would say all but 3 have been to an Economic and Tourism Development Commission meeting, probably at least 2 or 3 times in the last 5 years. So
Right.
they're all people that we regularly interact with, so.
I did rank Washington College's new $15 million grant for economic activity number 1 on my list, because I'm
That was
curious to
pretty
see
cool.
what that's going to be all about.
Yeah, I'm going to reach out to Dr. Harvey on that. Michael, he didn't like me to call him that,
So-
and see if he can come share some information on that for us.
And I think they've got the money, but not necessarily all the details of the program that it will fund.
Right.
But, and maybe we have some suggestions that could help.
Well, and maybe he and Pat could come together. Because what Pat's doing in his new role is
Yeah.
very much tied into the economic development.
Yeah, and I know they work together a
And
lot
what
as
I
well.
did
Yes,
was-
yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
I made the
Okay.
time. Okay, here comes a fun subject. We have authority to go from our 7 members to a full complement of 9
Did
members.
we skip one?
Yeah, we did skip short-term rentals, but we can take them
sure.
in either
Okay.
order,
Okay,
so
we'll come back to
we'll
short-term.
come back to it. Sounds good.
So what did you say then?
We have 7 members on our commission now. We are, by statute, allowed to have 9. Now, part of our reason for holding a couple of seats was XYZ company comes to town and we want their CEO to be on the commission and save a seat for important people who we don't know yet. I'm beginning to think that we're not using talent that's in the community already.
Thank you.
Whether it's minority, whether gender representation is pretty good, size of business, geographic location. There are a number of ways we can diversify, which was in this book in spades, this group. And so we're open for suggestions of how we might expand this commission that we would recommend and the commissioners appoint.
And I will say, there has not been an appetite to increase the number with the commissioners from 7 to 9. Now, if there's a discussion here and the recommendation is, I can certainly have, but until now, there's not been an appetite to do that.
And why is that?
Remember, there's additional, I'm sorry?
And do they have a reason for why they don't want to increase it?
Just because they feel 7 is enough. And if there is 9, remember, you are paid for these meetings as well, so then there's additional funding that needs to be allocated too. I mean, it's not a lot. It's part of the equation, and it's been part of the discussion, so that's why I'm bringing it up. And also, we do have a list of people who are still want to serve on the Economic and Tourism Development Commission. And they're still, and I'd have to go back and call those people, are you still willing, able, and want to? Because sometimes it's years and they're not. And are they a good fit? So, before we, and we are always taking interest forms because, we can say, we can talk about diversity all we want, but we've got to have somebody actually fill out an interest form and say they're interested before we can put it before as a recommendation to the county commissioners for consideration.
So going forward, should we get a sense from the commissioners whether our request would be dead on arrival or
Is there
they
a
would welcome
I
it?
mean, what is the reason for wanting to increase it? Because those are the conversations we should probably have with them when we talk to them. Why do we feel that it's why do we feel we need to increase it from 7 to 9?
Well, we used to have economic development and tourism, and how many was that total?
Well, 7 and 7.
Yeah, so that was 14 people from the community that was giving us input and direction and ideas. And now we have half as many to do the same amount of
So more ideas.
coverage, basically. And I know this isn't the popular idea, but I do think we should have some kind of tourism working group or something, because I think the esprit de corps and the synergy that was with the old board is definitely missing now that we're integrated. That's just my opinion. We don't have to discuss it now. Just throwing it out there for thought, to have I don't know how we could set it up, but I know that there's a lot of interest, and I think it would give us the opportunity to dive deeper into tourism. Like, I know we're doing, I don't even know exactly what we do. I see things piecemeal. I don't have an idea of the big picture, and I think if you had a tourism committee that could get granular on some of this stuff, and, you know, with Judy and Sandy's expertise, can sort of, you know, give advice more specifically to Shaolin and say, you know, what about this, or I'm missing that, or how about this, or, you know, just something that we can't do in this forum. So that's just, I don't know how we could do that, something to think about, maybe for the next meeting, you and Jamie and Charlie can discuss that, and then that might alleviate some of the need to have 2 more members on this board. But as you say, Dick, we're not representing a lot of the county that should have a voice, or, you know, and we're not reaching them. So anything we can do to enhance people's involvement in county government, you know, and I can't believe that $25, you know, a month is
Or a quarter.
It's an obstacle.
it's a quarter, yeah. Is an
I've yielded
obstacle.
mine
And
back.
I, you know, I would gladly yield
Put me in a
mine,
new
I just
tax
thought,
bracket.
yeah. So if that's their reason, I'm kind of disappointed.
No,
No, I'm not saying it's a reason, I'm just saying it's something to consider as we're doing this. I'm just trying to share all the information in the years that
Yeah,
I've
and
been
I'm just
here.
saying that would be a little disappointing.
So more ideas, more representation,
Well,
deeper
not
dive
only
into
representation,
tourism.
we need.
more
We
diverse.
need diversity on this group. We
Diverse.
need at least one member from the African American or Hispanic community.
And everybody knows
to be a
where the
part of
interest
this
forms, is
discussion.
that correct?
No, I hear you, Jamie. It's
Does
hard to
everybody
find
know
them.
where the interest forms are?
Well, they're hard to find, but you can find them. But it's hard to find people
I'm
who want to
saying,
do it. And this
please.
time of day is very tricky for a lot of people who have businesses. So
But this is decided by
I
the
know,
commission.
I know.
But I think
we
we
wanna
should
change it,
be
we can.
actually looking, targeting, and looking and encouraging people to participate because their voices are essential in this dialogue.
Yeah, so as you said, as Jamie says, they got to fill out a form.
I also think we need more depth of experience in economic development, with all due respect to you and me, who have the background, but someone with a background in economics. I mean, we are dealing with some significant economic issues in this county, and they don't come up here. They just don't come up here, and I think we need to be able to put that on the agenda and address it.
Like, you could put them on the agenda anytime, Paula, what don't come up here.
I'm sorry?
But you're saying the items don't come up here, but you could put them on the agenda anytime, right?
I know. What I'm just saying is I'm advocating for more people on this board who have more
I heard
depth of
you.
experience.
I heard you.
Than the existing group.
Thank you
that
so
those
much for
kind of
giving us that credit
discussions-
for,
Well, I mean, you've already said that there's nobody with any depth of experience in other
well, we have two
meetings.
people with that, anyhow.
At any rate, I just think we would benefit, and our discussions would benefit from finding people in the community, maybe somebody from the college, in the economics department, maybe
Who
some,
happens to be a minority.
who happens to be a minority.
And owns a marina.
Okay, well, we've introduced the
So-
subject, skipping all over the agenda. Jamie, let's put this on the agenda for the July meeting.
Under old business.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, good conversation. We didn't reach any conclusions, but the thought is there. And personally, I would like to see more diversity and fill at least one of those spots. I may start the conversation with Commissioner Price since he's the liaison, maybe with Shelley, and see where we go. Okay, we skipped over
Short-term rentals.
short-term rental follow-up.
Well, and we did have a lodging meeting, and Judy was there, so Judy, do you want to say anything about that at this point, or?
The concern is that short-term rentals may be pulling business away from the existing businesses who are licensed businesses that are operating lodging. That's the big picture.
Yep.
And the numbers were a little surprising. Like, I don't know if you have the numbers in front of you of how many short-term rentals we have in Kent County that are actually operating as Airbnbs versus, like how many licensed businesses we have. And that's sort of the takeaway that I got from the conversation around short-term rentals and how that's impacting the lodging association.
Was there any discussion in that meeting about action or recommendations to local government to address the issue?
So, yes.
Well, we need, yes.
Jim made a recommendation. We're trying to get everybody at least paying, that's supposed to be paying, and that's with the whole new software and everything. One of the suggestion was, like, New York, you have to live in the building, and then there's either a 2 or a 1 week minimum. And the question was asked, who wants to coordinate those changes? It's a very heavy lift because you have county government and then you have 5 municipalities. And if the county changes, does that really help Crow? Because they're still going to stay in Chestertown and go out to Crow Vineyards. So there is going to be a small working group put together. I can't remember who all's on it. Judy, help me here. I think it's Rich, Brampton, and there was a couple other people who are going to sit down and talk about it. But I just think we just need to make sure that we're coordinating across the county and with the municipalities if we want to go those directions. But there's not been anything put forward concretely yet.
I was talking to someone, and I thought she had some good ideas, because this is, for these people who are treating them as an Airbnb, it is a business venture. And so if we, as a business owner, if I have to pay or purchase a license through the county as well as through the town, and what I am, putting out for that you could expect someone who wants to run an Airbnb to have the same expectations, if you had a registration fee from the county and the town, that there'd be more of a commitment to, oh, well, this is kind of getting to be a pain, rather than, oh, I'm just raking in all this money, paying for my, I come to every so often vacation home. And I don't know if that would be enough to deter them or not, but, if it's versus trying to get them, because I think Jim Rich was saying something about, he was giving me several ways that other areas dealt with it. But I think in talking with some people, it's kind of like, you can't, it's hard to go backwards and make rulings when it's kind of been just a free-for-all for the past 2 years or whatever, even maybe more, 4 years really. Around COVID time is when it really.
When everybody came in and bought up properties.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then came here and lived for a little bit and decided, well, I want to go back to the city now.
Right. And I think that brings up a whole nother point that I kept thinking when we were talking about what we could do for businesses in the area, what issues are they dealing with? Well, we know for a fact that finding employees is an issue. And one of the issues of why we can't say, oh, this is a great area to live in, come, bring your business here. Well, if they can't find a place to live, then that's going to be kind of hard. They're not going to want to do a commute from the Western Shore or, wherever. But, and that kind of goes hand in hand, because I know in Rock Hall that some of the pieces of property that were fixer-uppers and may have been something that someone could have afforded to purchase and slowly fix it for their family to live in, those have been scarfed up and remodeled, and now they're Airbnbs, and there are no long-term rentals that are decent or affordable for workers.
Yeah.
And so, hence why I have one very part-time person, and that's it.
That's not unique to Rock Hall or
Right,
County.
right, right.
We're hearing it all over the state and quite frankly,
Right.
depending on what areas you're in.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It's definitely, and it's a challenging issue, and there's just so many factors to it. It's like, the elephant, you got to take one bite at a time and try to, address one thing at a time, and, as you go forward, add to it. But, trying to address it all at once, you wind up saying, oh, it's too hard. Well, rather than just saying it's too hard, start with one piece of it, focus on that, get that straight, and then move on. I think, getting the software in place and being able to run those reports and being able to identify who all these people are, first of all, and then start working on making sure that they're paying when they're supposed to, that might deter some people right there. So we'll have to move forward with that.
How would you describe the status of that activity now?
We're in the middle of implementation now with the Office of Finance, obviously, because it's a big part of it. And July 1st, it will be in effect. We'll be seeing reports before July 1st, and we'll be sending out letters before July 1st.
Oh, good.
And then as of July 1st, for July's, they'll be paying through the portal it's due August 21st?
It's due the 21st.
Of the following month. So that's when everything will start being electronic through the system.
Well, I think that whole
Yeah.
initiative was a great foundational
Yeah.
thing, and I hope the Office of Finance is carrying its weight.
Absolutely, yeah. No, they got a big part of this.
For them, and they are very much excited about rolling this out.
Okay, because that's, you need to know who the people are. You need to tell them they've got a payment obligation to make, and you're going to come after them if they don't pay it. And if you don't have that in place, you're SOL. But then other municipalities have adopted the other requirements that Sandy was talking about. Some are requiring that the owner be on premise. Some are requiring, minimum stays or maximum stays. Some are, have adopted heavy fees for, partiers. Others have adopted maximum number of people who can be in residence at any point in time. So there's a whole litany of stuff.
Required parking spaces.
Required parking spaces, absolutely.
Ensuring that the septic can handle the number of bedrooms that it's being advertised for.
Right.
So, right, there's a whole plethora.
That's the elephant, right?
Right,
It's all those
exactly,
things, so,
exactly.
yeah.
But I don't think, Jamie, I don't think you can take them one at a time. I think you have to have a general outline of what your recommendation is to the municipality.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, but I think when you said one at a time, I think she's thinking, thank you, Shallon. I'm just as
Bruce needs it
guilty
for a
as-
minute. Yes. What Jamie meant is, first step is the identification and getting the tax form straight. So not necessarily layering on the restrictions one at a time, but the first step is the identification and receiving those taxes. And then we
Getting
can
the
attack the
reports
next
kind of thing.
step.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on the same page.
I'm coming at it from a little different approach. I understand regulations, and I guess we have our things we have to pay. But I'm looking at the county's losing revenue, and the county's not only losing revenue through structure that way, but when somebody from New Jersey drives past Cross Street Market, drives past Molly's, and their car is loaded up with food and groceries they're bringing from New Jersey, they're not supporting our community. That's one big example. This would help. Give me the names of everybody that has an Airbnb, and let me put this in their room. This will help our economy. But people are coming, and if we could have a number, if we knew how many, I only know because, like I said, people come. I had somebody the other day, I have an Airbnb in Betterton, I have about 100, 150 people a year go through there, and I give them your thing. Thank you. That's just one example. 3 days ago, I had 20 people on Monday in different groups that are staying at Airbnbs. Group of 8, group of 6, group of 4. I don't know who they are, and they couldn't remember the name of where they were staying. One did say, I had a bottle of your wine was left for us. Well, I'm sure I know who that was. That was one of my wine club members. But I believe that businesses can have relationships, like at our meetings that we have for the Bed and Breakfast Association. Can we do a coupon for this? Can you do a coupon for that? Can we send you our guest full this weekend? Can you send? There's a relationship and a synergy of moving business to support each other. That's the piece that I think tourism is missing, that makes an impact. Maybe it's a small impact because we haven't studied it, but it makes an impact on the local economy.
So interesting, I think what I'm about to say is just echoing what you're saying, but I don't know if any of you have ever stayed at an Airbnb, but I have.
I do all the
And
time when I
I
travel.
love going into an Airbnb and having a list of local recommended vendors.
Right.
Love that. I don't know where to eat, I don't know where to buy fresh produce, and when they show me their, a list of takeout flyers, or we highly recommend this and that, I love that, because I feel like I'm one step further into their culture than I was the moment I walked through the door. So that is an interesting concept, is some sort of,
I would like to take it one
Organizational.
step further, like my customers that are coming to me, I call them a week in advance. Do you need, if you're going to stay in the cottage, you're bringing your own food, let me tell you about Cross Street Market. Or if you're staying in the main house with me, let me tell you a few restaurants that you need to check out when you're here, so they can be thinking about it in advance. The more we can do it in advance, and to get them into the community, and let them know that there are resources in the community that they can get once they get here. Everybody should be going to the farmer's market. Yep, sometimes they find it, sometimes they don't. B&B guests that come to me, I say, what are you going to do on Saturday morning? I don't know, what should we do? I said, what about the farmer's market? They don't know about it.
Right, they don't know, right.
So that's the point I'm making. I think it's wonderful that we know who they are and they're paying their taxes if we decide to go that route, but I want to know who they are so that I can bring them into the folds of the community, of Bed and Breakfast Association, or the people who are already lodging people.
Are you
And
talking about the lodging association?
yeah, we can talk
Okay.
about the lodging
Yeah.
association, but we have to know who they are. I don't know how,
The lodging association, I mean, definitely needs to be more active than it currently is,
yeah.
because a lot of lodging,
And the Lodging
Don't
Association,
attend.
we used to have the head of tourism manage that with us, and Bernadette would come to the meetings and help us with the meetings and all, yes.
well, I mean, we're willing to do that. I mean, and there was two of us at the last meeting, so we are always there. We've not,
Is that the once a
Pulled
year
out.
meeting?
yeah. So, but
I think they could
that's
meet a little
not
more
enough.
often.
Yeah, it needs to be at least quarterly. And I know you guys discussed that last
Yeah,
time.
Yeah. Okay.
Again.
Well, this is really good.
Yeah.
I don't know what, I
It
don't,
doesn't,
Team effort.
I don't remember the old one, I have it on my desk, but I mean specifically, but I know this is way better. Yeah, this is very complete, really good.
The other thing for the Lodging Association to consider is having a membership for the Airbnbs.
I'm wondering.
Bring them in,
Yeah, let them pay, yeah.
let them pay dues.
I'm wondering if there could be like a banner on the tax website, that says, please, we would like to invite you to be a member of our lodging association, with a little bit of information. Or even like a letter that.
Maybe it's a different level of membership.
good thing is you can win the.
Absolutely, right. I mean, they probably have no idea that there's even such a
Right.
thing.
Right.
Oh, that's what you said.
Who's going to do that?
Yeah, who's going to get the Lodging Association more active and
Who's head of it?
vigorous? Right now, it's Joanne Rich, but she wants to give it up, so I think the folks from Brampton have agreed that they would take a leadership role in that, but I don't know, I don't know if you all understand how busy somebody is at a B&B. I mean,
Well, yeah.
yeah, it's like running a house with a bunch of kids, only the kids have greater needs. But they do give you tips on the way out the door, of how you can do things better.
It's just not a financial tip, it's an idea.
Ron, I do want to share with the ladies have been, actually Rose was all over Rock Hall this morning.
Yeah.
Shallon spent the day, or at least the morning, up in Galena. So we are, very actively, and I know that's something that was not done before.
Yeah.
You had to come pick them up. Well, we know how busy you are. So rather than saying you have to come pick them up, we're saying, what do you need? We will bring it to you. So we are currently doing all of that. But
We've
again.
done pretty much everybody except for a few in Chestertown and just across the Queen Anne's County Bridge. Ross Wharf and was it Kennersley Point is in our big deliveries for marinas and,
Brampton, Crow, places like that. And then we also give literature to, we get contacted and a lot of times when people are starting an Airbnb, or even just because they don't know what the rules are. There was someone who came in, was it last week, Rose?
Yes.
And when he was in our office talking to Rose and I, we were like, help yourself to all of this Kent County literature, put it in your, place. So we do definitely try and promote that as much as we can when we do, speak to the homeowners or, the Airbnb property owners, or if they come into our office and we talk to them. We try and give them as much literature and information that they can handle so they can have it out or available for their guests.
How many copies did you get printed? How many
Yeah.
copies did you get printed?
What do we get, 3,500 Rose?
Copies?
Brochures this round.
No, I don't think we had, that was a cost, I think, Shallon. I don't think we got 3,500 copies. I feel like we got, I don't know, 500?
No, there's 200 in a box, there's 30 boxes up there.
Oh,
The
yeah.
other,
No, not
I was gonna say, the other
Okay.
thing we do is we have tent cards.
I was just curious.
Like, Brampton
No, I
has
understand.
tent cards in their rooms with the QR code. So, the other place in Rockwall, Mariners Motel, they do the same thing. So when the tent cards, we don't have to update all the time, because it'll still take them to the newest version of the visitor's guide. So, there are some that, so we haven't had to print as much as, there's still a need for print, but it does seem to be dwindling down a little bit.
The quantity we had printed was 5,000.
There we go.
There we go.
That sounds better.
No.
I was like looking at it like, what?
The price was 34.
Okay.
Yeah, I was close with one of them.
Shelley, do you have these in the museums of Kent?
In the museums?
Each of the museums? Yeah.
So Rose attends all the museum meetings, and she takes them with them so the museums can take them. So, if they are willing, and town's office, that's another place we try to make sure they get into all the town offices as well. So, yeah,
And the
good
visitor
ideas.
centers.
Visitor
The-
centers, of
the
course.
Visitor center here in Chestertown, the one in Rockwall.
Yep.
And then we also have a list, we call it bulk literature. So we have a list of all the visitor centers, like the I-95, I-70 Visitor Center, I don't even know how to say this, Ugaini,
I don't know.
something, the large visitor centers on the highways.
Yeah.
That we go through the list as soon as we get a bunch of boxes of these in and order them. Rose and I run through the list, call them, do you need any? We have updated ones, then we keep a tally of how many we send where, and we drive them all up to the UPS store and ship them, so we're getting them, out of this area as well too.
Have you evaluated the cost benefit of visitor centers, like the one on I-95?
No, but we do have them in there. We have that's the one we have the program with that guy who does the 95 visitor centers. To be in there, you have to contract with that company. They're contracted through the state of Maryland.
You have to contract, with them, and then there's another set that you have to contract with a distributor for them.
So we do one with the state, but we don't do that other one. So, yeah, that's something we can look into.
Any other
And we
thoughts
did.
about short-term rentals?
No.
Good discussion. Let's look at the agenda items.
Before we do that, I have another item of new business.
Just here.
The legislature this year passed several bills relating to supporting affordable housing. And there's money behind them. I'm going to encourage the office to look into those grant programs. I can get you the specifics. I forgot to bring the
Well, I
the
do
site.
want to.
You may be aware of them
I
already.
guess I want to share an update of what has happened through the budget cycle as well. So housing and transportation was parked in economic and tourism development for a period of time. That position was not funded in the FY '25 budget. The position that was funded is a grants manager position that will be housed in planning, housing, and zoning. So the idea is for housing to go back to planning, housing, and zoning. And then, I can spend a little bit more time on transportation rather than trying to divide between the two. Because it was not doable to keep up with all those meetings.
Right.
So I was getting parts and pieces of it. Bill was getting parts and pieces when he could attend. And so we do not have somebody dedicated to housing. So it's a concern, but it's not something I have the capacity to really focus on. Have I been following those? Yes. Do I know all the ins and outs? No. But, yeah, then also, we had the lobbyist, Shelley, present to the commissioners last night, and I heard about some bills that I think would be beneficial, that I need to do some research on for like first-time home buyers, or I think it was it teachers? And there were some different bills for tax credits that the county could impose that could help.
Just teachers,
What,
public school employees.
Thank you. So I need to do a little more research on those, because those are the types of things that I think that we can, now that it's approved at the state level, we bring before the commissioners and say, do we want to do this on a county and or a town level to incentivize those types of families to move into the community? So just looking at those.
So can you back up a second? So there is no housing person.
Correct.
Right, and there won't be any housing person.
Not at this
Right,
time.
in any department. But there's a grants manager that's going to be in planning and zoning to do all grants or
All grants.
for anything not related to planning, zoning, housing, transportation?
I think it's county in general.
All grants.
So that person is just being housed in planning, housing, and
Okay.
zoning.
Right.
So the focus won't necessarily be planning, housing, and zoning.
Okay, yeah.
But that person will have a little bit more capacity to go after potentially some good fits for the county as far as housing goes.
So
Shelley,
departments will ask her or him to look at this grant opportunity and
Right.
deal with it.
And the more that person gets into our grant communities, because I don't even know if this person will be from Maryland or not, so let's just say the person's not from Maryland. As soon as they get more and more contacts being built, then, you know, it might be at first the detention center comes to the grants person to say, hey, can
Right.
you help us with this grant? But then in a year or two, that person might be going to the detention center saying, hey, did you know about this
Yeah,
opportunity?
yeah, that's great. Okay, good.
So the same thing would happen with that person with this commission. This commission could go to the grant, or Jamie would go to the grant person and say, I need you to research grants available for housing.
Not housing, because housing will no longer be.
Where
under my
is
department.
housing in the
Housing
county?
is not. I mean, we have a Department of Planning, Housing, and Zoning, but they aren't necessarily going after housing
Not
grants.
staffed to do all three.
That's
No, and they don't have somebody to address the issue of housing.
Correct. And the Planning, Housing, and Zoning Department has representation on housing committees statewide. They are abreast of the situations, but you are correct. We do not have a department for housing, and we do not have a person dedicated to housing.
I think that's a problem. I think that's a big problem for Kent County. Because housing is one of the foundational requirements for attracting people and retaining people in the county. And failure to recognize that as a key component of this county's economic base, I think is a real oversight. And you can bring that back to the commissioners. I mean, I really think that's a failure of the county to recognize a key criteria for the future well-being of this county.
Moving right along.
Yes.
So before we move to the agenda for next meeting, I would like to request that we move the August meeting to either the first or the third Wednesday, because the second Wednesday is the MACO conference, and it's our department's responsibility to do the booth for the county.
Sure.
So does everybody have a preference?
So the 7th or the 21st, you're saying?
Correct.
7th of August?
August, yes.
Which is my birthday.
Yeah.
I just want to know ahead of
Remember
time so
that.
we can change it on our
What day of the week is that?
list.
Wednesday,
Still a Wednesday.
still a Wednesday.
So the 7th or the 21st.
Right. I prefer the 7th because I'll be on vacation the 21st, but you guys can certainly have a meeting without me. So,
I don't think so.
Seven works.
7th, okay?
7th works here.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so we'll make that change on the website as well. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I go back in the conversation just for a moment? I would like to make one other housing comment. We do have several nonprofits that work with housing in the county, and the county does rely on their expertise in certain capacities. We have our Community Action Agency has a housing person dedicated to the county office here on Lynchburg Street. And we also have nonprofits such as Kent Attainable Housing, who their earmark request just moved to the next phase in the federal earmark process. So there are opportunities, but you're right in that the county does not spearhead those opportunities.
Yeah, I think what those other organizations are doing is very valuable, but there's no central focal point, and there's no guidance from the county in terms of priorities.
I have to go.
While we're on our calendars, I am not going to be able to make the July 10th meeting.
Okay.
So we'll put Judy Gifford in charge.
Whoever's not here, that's who we.
Yeah.
appoint. No.
So it would fall to Charlie
Yeah, it
if
would.
he's
So
available.
July 10th is when you're going to be absent. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Thank you, Dick.
So items for our next agenda.
Okay, we've already got John Trotweiser scheduled because he
Yep.
was scheduled prior and we had to move him. And then I could reach out to one of the top on the list and see if another one's available. We do normally limit them to 15, I tell them about a 10 to 12-minute presentation with about 4 or 5 minutes for question, and then try to move them along that way. So I will do that.
We
So-
should be disciplined for our other issues that we put on the agenda to be concise in our statements and limited in the amount of things we want to cover. I've written down that we want to talk about the size of the commission.
Yep.
We want to talk about speakers, and
Well, do we need to revisit speakers, or do I thought I had that you wanted a speaker
Yep.
at each meeting?
Yep.
And
And you'll-
possibly two if we can
you'll
keep
work
them
down the
concise. Am I reading that right?
Mhm.
Okay, got
And
that.
Judy Gifford brought up the idea of incentives. Could we have a presentation on fundamental incentives that are available through Kent County? I think state incentives are one thing.
If we only have one speaker, yes. If we have two speakers, that's going to be difficult. So let me see how the agenda works out. If not, I can put it on the August meeting. I'm just trying to think of the best way to do it. I mean, I feel they're very, they're housed on the website very concisely. And that's where I start everybody because we get people call just about every other day. I'm starting a business. What grants are available? First answer is none. So, so I start out with, okay, first of all, usually there's no grants to start a business. There are grants that I don't want to get too far off. I can give you my spiel either at the July or August meeting. But, I mean, I get them started, I show them where to go on the website, because each of those programs are very specific to business size, business location, type of business.
Well, I think Judy
There's-
wanted to know if they really work. So I guess because she made a comment and made it sound like, is it really worth offering them? So I guess she wants to see, some proof that people do take advantage of them.
I would just say Dixon's still here. So they were
Yeah.
the first, we did the enterprise zone because they were at that point where they needed to make a decision. Were they going to build here or in Smyrna, Delaware? And we were able to get the enterprise zone designation. And they have about 400 employees here in Chestertown. So
Do we do tax increment financing?
not currently, no. We've explored it before for different projects, and just the amount of administrative work that needs to be done.
And that was
We talked to
evaluated,
Medco, yeah.
back when Dixon was
We
about
looked
to
at it.
build their new complex.
Yep.
And it turned out that the enterprise fund was more
Appealing.
lucrative
Yeah,
to them
appealing, yeah.
than a TIF.
So we have looked at it.
Anybody else have items for our agenda next month? Public announcements? Shelley, you got anything out there? I do have one, and that is that Barbara's on the Bay has been sold,
Oh, awesome.
and,
They're going to turn it into a vacation house.
no. It's going to be an
Stop.
Airbnb. Compete with Judy in Betterton.
It's,
All I know is it will be a food-related activity.
please have them contact me if you can get someone's
I don't even know
ear.
who they are. But
They're, it is an
yeah,
enterprise
that-
zone.
That was settled
So-
this week.
Yeah. Sometimes incentives can get somebody to move faster and quicker.
Yeah.
And by faster and quicker, as far as capital investment into the community or adding jobs. And that's what we're looking for, right?
Well,
So,
I don't know what their timing is. I'll bump into them. But
That's
there's a
great.
dumpster in the parking lot.
okay.
There was always a dumpster in the parking lot.
Well, yeah, that's for normal trash.
Okay.
We're going to give you a time limit at the next meeting. Anything else for the good of the cause? We're right on time. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And we're adjourned. We do have a quorum to approve.